Anyway. I feel like you can do better than this, Christian. We need better music.
Dude, I was jamming some Goose this morning.
Oh my God.
I have a new favorite song that's stuck in my head.
I'm gonna find some group called Black Swan and like secretly, slowly seduce you into it and just like take you from Deadhead to Goose to Black Swan to like, Yellow Teddy Bear or something.
It just happens sometimes.
Go all the way in a full circle.
Just happens.
Oh my Jesus Christ. What up, people? Mike Frank and Christian Olson back again for 2024.
First podcast of the year.
First podcast of the year. If you're listening to this in 2027, I feel bad for you.
Liv, I heard you were asking around like Heather, like, oh, do you know if Christian's coming in?
I didn't say do I know. I said if Christian doesn't
No,
come in.
I ain't missing the first podcast
dude came
of the
in
year.
like real fucking hot this morning.
Sure, I have to cover all my bases if you guys want to go.
I was in the middle of reviewing 2 contracts that we had received over the weekend, and then Christian like busts in the door and screams at me. I was like, oh my God. Hello, welcome to 2024. This is why we have no days off.
It's exciting.
It is exciting. So in the podcast script here, we were talking a little bit about, setting some goals and some aspirations and kind of how Maryland differs from other states in
terms of real estate?
In terms of real estate, yeah.
You want to know something? One of my clients was from it's either North Carolina or South Carolina, and when they put in their offer, the way that those states operate, your earnest money, you can never get it back. Like it's always to the seller. Don't quote me. That's what they told me because they purchased a house there before. Maybe it's changed since then.
Yeah, and I don't know enough about it, but in Texas or in parts of Texas, there is a fee that goes straight to the seller.
That's nuts.
And
man.
I don't know what the fee is. And it's like, it's nominal. It's usually like, it might be $100 or $500. It's not much.
But like your earnest money deposit could be a couple $1,000, and you have to be, that means you have to know that this property, like you're in it to win it, and like whatever comes back in that inspection report.
I mean, it's hard for me because I see both sides of it. I see there should be a fee that goes to the seller for taking the home off the market. Like, what is the problem? If you're serious about this and you're concerned about it, why do we have so many points of failure in our contract that allow the buyer out scot-free? Like, literally, no offense to any sellers out there, but as a buyer's agent, I'm like, guys, just fucking fire an offer. Like, what's the difference?
Yeah.
If the seller accepts it and you decide you don't want it, terminate.
So yeah.
It's awful to say that, but it's true.
No, it is. But I do think as a buyer, that's why Maryland's great. But as a seller, it can put you in a position. It can really put you in so many different positions. Like you say no to the buyer at any single point, and they can just go.
Well, and it echoes that same sense of commitment, right?
Yeah.
If the buyer was committed, and look, I'm telling you, make it $500, make it $200. I don't even care how much it is. It's just something to say to the seller, I'm serious about this offer, right? We have 2 offers on a property today, and they're very, very similar, and the points of failure are identical, and the points of emphasis are very, very similar. But from a seller's perspective, well, how do you know which one's going to get to closing? And do you accept the VA offer versus the conventional offer?
That's another
Do you
thing.
accept the subsidized support program versus the streamlined down payment program? Do you accept the, no inspections versus the person that's doing the inspections? It sounds like you should go with like a certain road, but the reality is it's really about the buyer. Because honestly, if a buyer got cold feet, seriously, the week before settlement, buyer comes to their agent and says, hey, look, I'm not buying this house. And the agent comes to me and goes, Mike, look, they're not buying this house. And I go, what do you mean? And they go, well, they're not buying it. I don't know what to tell you. I would say to my seller, let them go and let's go find a new buyer. Like, it's just not worth the stress over what the contract says and what the contract doesn't say. So if that's the case, why wouldn't we have the buyer pay the seller a fee directly to show them how committed they are?
No, I would agree. But like, I don't know how the Carolinas work with real estate, but it seems like if you have an EMD that's a couple thousand and you could, like, it's a whole nother ballgame.
But you could have 2 EMDs. You could have the first and the second. And
That's
again,
facts.
honestly, you're drinking an Alani, I'm drinking a coffee. You bought that for what? $2?
Maybe.
Where'd you buy it?
Wawa.
At the gas station. You paid $4 for that. Right?
Maybe $3.50.
Meanwhile, I buy them at Costco and I pay, 75 cents each, right? we both have different alignments to our values, and I might come into the seller and say, hey, I'm only willing to give you 500, and you might come to the seller and say, I'm only willing to give you 100. It's like the value that we place on money should play a role in the cost, in the conversation of real estate. It doesn't make sense why we're not.
Well, another thing that I think people like lose their mind about, which isn't, I don't want to say justified, but like cash offers.
On both ends.
What do you mean? Like a buyer thinks they're very strong and stands out incredibly different than anybody
that
else.
pay cash.
But then
they're
the seller's
fucking
like,
awful.
oh, I got a cash offer.
I hate buyers that pay cash.
There's like really not a huge difference between cash and like.
There's no difference.
None. It's not like
There's
they're
no
bringing,
difference. In the end of the day, the title company sends a wire to the seller's bank account. Does it matter if the money that came from the buyer was in pennies, dollars, or a grant program? No, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's so fucking annoying. Yeah. But like, honestly, it's the perception of the buyer, right? So what if you had a cash buyer that was only willing to lay out $500 to insure their contract, let's just say, right? And then you had a conventional borrower that was putting down 3% minimum conventional down payment, I'll have you, right? But they're putting down 3% on a $300,000 house and they're willing to give the seller $1,500. Wouldn't that show you that that buyer is more committed to the transaction? They're more committed. F that cash buyer. They're just so awful. They're so annoying.
I agree.
And there's so many ways to get out of the contract. But that's not the reason we were talking about the difference in Maryland real estate. Wow, that was a long tangent there.
The
Christian.
reason that we're talking about Maryland real estate, it looks like so you guys can buy and sell your next home.
True. But what conversation came up was the steadfast real estate market in Maryland.
What do you mean by steadfast?
So, who's the first person to feel market fluctuation? In real estate, in cell phone towers, in baseball, it doesn't matter. Who's the first person to feel it?
Probably home buyers.
Think about it this way. If interest rates went
lenders?
up by 1%, how much does that change that $200,000 buyer's capacity?
If the interest rates go up 1%,
Yeah.
would it probably a couple $100 now they can't afford, like a couple $100 less in their pre-approval.
So maybe they're looking at what, like 180, 170?
Yeah.
Right. But think about if interest rates go up by 1% on $1 million buyer. Now you're 5xing that problem.
Yeah.
You just took a $1 million buyer and you made them into a $900,000 buyer or an $850,000 buyer for the same small impact of change.
So what is your, who does it affect?
It affects the high end, right? And
okay.
Don't get into me the philosophy behind people saying like, oh, the rich don't even feel the problems. And whatever, we're going to talk about that another time. What we're talking about very strictly is like real estate.
Yeah.
And so when the market changes, the industry that hurts the worst is the high end. New York, Manhattan, shut down during COVID. Completely done. People left Manhattan in droves, and there was no sales that happened. LA County, high-end California. These areas hurt. We didn't hurt.
We are actually
Our market actually grew consistently.
Yeah.
We had a small dip in April, and then we grew consistently. That's the steadfast economy that we have in Maryland as it pertains to real estate. There's a constant flow of buyers and sellers in every market, in every price range.
Do you think it's because Maryland's average price point is different than Manhattan or different than California?
I think a lot of it has to do with that. But the biggest thing is that there's no I'm just going to use Amazon, right? So Amazon chose not to have a home base here in Maryland. They chose Virginia.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great, right? There's no high income producing business in a specific area. Let's just say like, let's say downtown, right? There's no high income producing businesses in downtown that are generating so much activity around that area that it's driving real estate prices up.
Yeah.
Our spread is much, much, much wider because we have easier ability to drive. The commute time is consistent with larger cities where people can get physically farther away from the city, thus spreading the money out farther. It's literally creating the opposite effect of financial spread. It's putting the financial spread into the communities that are surrounding our city.
Yeah.
Because there's not one big technology hub, and there's not one big, transportation hub, and all these people that have commutes and things to worry about. There's no drive to live in a specific area. People want to live in Howard County because they love Howard County. They love Columbia. They love what it stands for. They love the school district. They like the school district in Timonium. They like the communities that they can get in Canton downtown. They like the waterfront that they can get in Annapolis or in, Severna Park, or even in, some of the areas of Glen Burnie. And we're talking about areas that have millions and millions of dollars of homes, and in those same exact communities, $200,000 houses.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we have people living in Canton that live in $2 million houses, and then people living in Canton that bought their first home for $234,000.
Yeah, that's accurate.
It's like the spread of our wealth is much more dynamic. And I feel it allows affordability to consistently flow, which is good for sellers and it's good for buyers.
I feel like it does put the risk, even in Maryland, on the top of buyers in the chain, or like even so, even being in this market, different than LA, different than New York, all these other places, it still affects that same person.
Just think about it this way. If you have one family that has a good income, they make a good living, they're going to spend, let's just use the number of $10,000 a month on a mortgage, right? There's nothing wrong with it, blah, 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 right? Interest rates come down, right? And that $10,000 a month mortgage, which would probably be like a $2 million house, right? Yeah. $2 million house, the interest rates come down, and all of a sudden that monthly payment for that $2 million house, let's just say it's $8,500, right? Yeah. Well, this family can either now go up a price bracket, $2.5 million, or they can come down a price bracket and still buy in that $2 million house, and they can still afford it for $8,000, give or take.
Yeah.
But now what it's done is it's taken somebody that was previously in the $1.5 million, and it's allowed them to get higher.
Yeah.
So of course, the higher price range hurts harder when the interest rates drop, because they have fewer buyers, even here in Maryland. But the dynamic is that there's so much opportunity in Maryland. We don't have like whole ass zip codes that people can't get into for $300,000.
Dude, but I feel like there's still, I don't know, uncertainty in some buyers, and they're like, one, they don't want to commit to, they don't see the opportunity that's there. Even being in a relatively lower price point market, they still claim for it to be unaffordable and that they can't do anything. And I'm not saying they're right or they're wrong, but I don't know. Maybe sometimes people don't see how good Maryland actually has it.
It's so funny, because I think if I were to give that buyer this blog, right, go to our website, frankoliverco.com, additional resources to the blog for today's blog. If you go into that blog and you learn a little bit about the steady rise of home prices, or the haven of stability for the economic shifts that we've had here in Baltimore, the investment appeal. It's like, as the market would become softer, more investors would come in and stabilize the market. So these people that think that they're going to be able to just wait it out, what are they waiting for? Fucking depression? Like,
I
just don't get it.
I was thinking about like what was the average price point of a home here in January of 2023 versus right now, January 24, or, this past week, and just like when we were in December.
Are you going to ask me about this? Because I don't know.
No.
Okay,
but I was thinking in my head, like each month I look at my reports, and it's like the home price in October 2022 versus 2023. It's gone up average of 4% around Maryland.
Yep.
Then a $400,000 house, that's quite a chunk of change. So like the average homeowner in Maryland, not even homeowner, prospective home buyer, if you're not making your move, you're losing out on an average of what?
Right.
$12,000, $16,000 a year.
And also think about the growth rate as it plays into your long-term goal, right? Let's just say hypothetically, and we will start to see this.
I'm listening.
We will start to see this. We'll start to see houses that are selling for, 3% less than they sold for last January. Or we'll start to see, 1.8% less homes sold in a community year over year. Because, we're coming off of literal never seen before highs. COVID time was unbelievable. We're still coming off of that. We're going to see some of those negative numbers. But the reality is that we're buying for long-term growth. So the person that bought in COVID is already seeing 6 and 8% growth. The person that bought in 2021 is seeing 6 and 8% growth. So do you want to be the person that goes, I waited and I watched the interest rate fall, or I watched the housing market fall by 2%. I'm like, yeah, so that specific community fell by 2% in a year that you wasted $30,000 on rent, in a year that you wasted all of the grant and down payment assistance programs are no longer funded. There's no more opportunity for you. And oh, by the way, what is that going to do for you 30 years from now? Because are you ready to jump in today, or are you still waiting?
This is like, for someone who makes, I'm not claiming it, but for a person out there that makes $100,000 a year, and you're not a homeowner, and you're losing, let's say the market's growing by $12,000,
yeah,
$400,000 house, whatever. You're losing 12% equity, but like, think of it as like you're taking a 12% hit every year on top of your rent, on top of everything else that you're doing.
Think about this. I've never thought about this before. Think about this. You just put down 5% on a $300,000 house, 15 grand, right?
Right.
Or you rented that that $300,000 house for $2,000 a month, right? Okay, so $2,000 a month going down the drain, $24,000 gone out the window. Mm-hmm. Okay, 15 grand that you invested into an investment that's going to pay off over time. $24,000 in the drain, $15,000 that's going to grow.
Yeah.
It just like
I've been having my conversation with my friend, and I'm going to call you out, Steven, but I'm talking to him, I'm like, buying a house. I'm like, dude, like what you're looking for, not that it doesn't exist, but you're going to have to take steps and jump through hoops to get it. And like you like just have to make like some lifestyle changes of like, he just bought like a new drift car. He's into paintballing. He's like all these hobbies. And I'm like, dude, I love your hobbies. I'm there with you. I game, I do all these other things. But at some point, if you want to purchase a home, you're going to have to reconsider your budget and really analyze what it's going to take to get that house.
I have a full-time job.
That's that girl bringing all of the energy right there to tell him the same thing that I told someone about a year and a half ago. Our client said, oh, blah, 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 blah. I'm thinking about selling the Nissan. He has a Nissan that he kept, race car, blah, 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 right? And I was like, I didn't even know that you still had that car. He's like, oh, I love it. I want to keep it forever, whatever. But I'm thinking I might need to sell it to get money for down payment and closing costs. We run his pre-approval. We do everything. And we have the conversation. I go, dude, I don't really think it's necessary. Now, in this market that you have today, maybe that money would help to overcome some of the objections, the inspections, repairs, the appraisal gap coverage, the other things that we need to become negotiable.
Yeah.
But you can buy a house, right? Steven can buy a house, has all these hobbies, all these things that he wants to do. That's great. I'm sure he could buy a house. I'm sure he could qualify. But if he were to sell the Nissan, so next time I talk to this guy, I'm like, yeah, but he's like, yeah, I'm thinking we might want to go in on this house. I really like it. Appraisal gap coverage, whatever. And I was like, well, yeah, but we have to make sure with the lender that we have the cash to do that. He's like, oh, I actually sold the Nissan. Like, we didn't even have a detailed conversation. That's just how committed he was.
Dude, I have a buyer I'm working with right now, and they're fucking troopers. You guys are amazing. He's in a like motorcycle club, rides a Harley. Me and him connected over that. But he was like, kind of figuring out what money he wanted to bring to the table, and he was kind of keeping some
don't ride.
Huh?
You don't ride.
As much as I'd like
there
to.
You go. Okay.
He was keeping $7,000 aside because he wanted to upgrade his bike in 2024 and make it a little bit faster, do things to the engine. But putting in some offers, it was like, okay, we got to be a little bit more competitive. So now he's taking that money that he's going to put in his bike and now putting it into a home and almost like guaranteeing himself he's going to get his offer accepted for him and his wife.
I fucking love that. I also, as a car person, I look at these people that drive, like we drove by a McLaren yesterday and I was like, whew, love that car, right? Want a Ferrari, all these things. And like their life goals, their aspirations. And maybe one day I would invest that kind of money into a toy like that, but not in my growth stages, right? Not in my, I want to make money and feed my family and put, opportunity out there. Because if I invest in a house today, $500,000 investment today, right? I'm in my 30s. In my 60s, that house is paid off. If I don't make any changes, no refinancing, no nothing, right? Now, if I buy a house today for $500,000 in my 30s and I turn around and I sell it in my 40s, and let's just say the rate of appreciation sucks dick, right? 1% annually. 1% annually, year over year, is going to net me about $55,000 in profit when I sell that home, plus my principal pay down. So I'm going to take that $500,000 house. I'm going to sell it for $560 or $555. I'm going to pay some expenses. I'm going to move my family to a bigger house. And then by the time I go to retire, I'm now going to have a $800 or a 1.3 or a $1.7 million equity. And yeah, maybe I have a $300,000 mortgage left on it, but I've leveraged and I've pushed and I've pushed.
Dude, that's the thing.
Versus wasting.
Dave Chappelle just came out with a new special yesterday.
Yeah,
and
I figured that was the case when you texted us this morning.
I also saw him live about a month or so ago, and it was absolutely amazing. And that quote that he had said, I put in the chat, like,
do you know it?
And not off the top of my head, it said, you have to be able to recognize, or you have to be wise enough to recognize when you're living your dream, and humble enough to know when you're living in someone else's.
Facts.
But he was on stage, and it was very powerful. He's talking about him being like, I don't know, 15, 16 something years old in Silver Spring or on the comedy stage at DC. What are you doing? Oh, I thought you were like about to take a video of me live. I was not ready for it. And then now he's 50 years old, speaking in front of 20, 30,000 people in this arena, and he dreamt of that very moment. You know, it's like he put in all this work over from being 15, 16, 20, 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, and now he's like living his dream, and people aren't willing to take those steps that are in between the age of 15 and 50. Right. You know, they want to have 15 and then at 20 they want to have everything in life, or they want to have everything at 15 years old or 16, 18, dude, whatever the number may be. But he was like working so fucking hard, and then he can come up on stage and say, I did this shit. Like, and people don't want to take that step. Then be like, oh, I can't afford this house. Oh, I can't do this. I can't do that. My hobbies, my whatever it may be. Just put in the fucking time, and like, you have to decide what your dream is, and you have to be able to go get it. If being a homeowner is not a part of your dream, then that's fine.
Right.
But then if you want to sit there and complain about the position that everything's in, you're not taking any action towards it, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, it's like there's 10 5-year-olds that want to be billionaires when they grow up, right?
Yeah.
10 in the world, right? Like, there's no fucking kids that want to be a billionaire. They want to be a vet and an attorney, and they want to be like what their parents are, and they want to emulate the firefighter, and they want to do the things that they see, right? And then they become 15 and they want to have things. And then they become 25 and they have the ability to have things, so they see that to fruition. And then they become 35 and they realize that they're not going to become the billionaire, right? Yeah. I don't care if you're a billionaire. You're not going to become 100 billionaire, right? Like, there are certain fleeting goals that we have in our lifetime. But the farther we go through life, the more our aspirations become dulled and sullied, and we become content with our hobbies and our skills. It's like, if you look at the market that we have here, there's nothing but opportunity. And if you want to take advantage of it, you could be the 15-year-old that starts saving to buy a house at 18. I actually don't know if you can own a home before you're 18, but let's just hypothesize and say that that's the first time that you could buy a house. I mean, shit, bro. Like,
dude, one time I had someone sign up on our website, and I called them, and it was like some 10-year-old. I was like, yeah, I'm just looking at homes. And I'm like, what?
Good, bro. Good. Honestly, 10 years old.
Amazing.
Think of how much he could save to buy a house by 18. Yeah. Seriously, I didn't buy a house until I was 30. Okay. So let's just track this trajectory. I bought a house at 30, and now 7 years later, I have, let's just say 7 or 10. It doesn't matter, right? If I started buying a house when I was 18, 12 years earlier, what would my trajectory look like today? Would I be at 50? Would I be at 100? But I promise you, if I wait until the interest rates are in alignment, like, fuck right off.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. It's not something that I think people need to focus on when they're thinking about buying or selling a home. Is now the right time for you? Does it meet your goals and aspirations? Can I show you why the opportunity is ripe here?
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, they're looking for investment opportunity. I got news for you. There's nowhere that's a good investment opportunity if you can't trust the investment.
Yeah.
If you can't trust the person that you have in responsible for it, if you can't trust the management company that you have for it, if you can't trust the market, if you're going to buy in a community because, oh, it's a up and coming community. It's like, ever since I got into real estate, there's neighborhoods in Baltimore that are like up and coming, or other words like gentrifying, or, the next big whatever. And I keep watching these neighborhoods that never up and come.
Yeah.
But if you buy there because you like it and because you believe in the opportunity
That's part
and
of it,
because you
believing.
want to do it, not because it's up and coming.
Yeah.
And I mean, dude, I've had clients in this particular community that I'm thinking of in Pigtown.
Yeah.
And people love it. And other people are like, ew, it's Pigtown. And it's fine. It doesn't have to be right for everyone.
Right.
But to sit there and say, I'm going to invest in Pigtown because it's a good investment, it's like, well, what if you found 30 other places that are a good investment?
Right.
And I don't know. There's a right investment for everyone.
I agree, and you have to believe it. And I think a lot of people just need to identify what their dreams are, and then how can I achieve this? How can I get one step closer? How can I, change my life or put myself in a better position to achieve something like this?
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody's having. I don't say anybody. I don't think people today are having that conversation with themselves or their family as much as they should.
I have an excerpt that I'm going to read from our blog. Investing in Maryland real estate not only provides potential for appreciation, but also offers a sense of security that is invaluable in an unpredictable world of real estate investments. Whether you're a seasoned investor or a first-time homebuyer, Maryland's suitable real estate market provides a solid foundation for building and preserving wealth. Mm-hmm. Right? As the opportunity changes, as the market fluctuates, for people that are thinking about it, it's like, now is the time to buy. And it's not set a goal because it's New Year's, right? We're not here to lose 10 pounds. We're here to grow like our life. We should be setting a goal because it's 2024.
Here's something I just thought about. Like, people will put themselves through school to get their HVAC job, their welding job, their union job. They'll put themselves through college to be an accountant, to make a lot of money, or be a doctor, be all these things. Why are we not taking those same sacrifices and steps to purchase a house? They both lead to the same outcome, bettering your life.
Yeah. I got nothing. That's fucking awesome.
Like, it just like occurred to me. It's like, we put ourselves through those sacrifices, through those stresses to get ourselves a good paying job or live the life that we want to. But then when it comes to purchasing a home, they don't correlate.
Can we like reel that right there, Liv? I actually want to replay that for our next Live Baltimore event because that's fucking awesome. And I think the challenge is that you sign up and, when you're in elementary school, your parents make you do the cool, fun things like dress up like, George Washington and Benjamin Franklin. And then you're in middle school and you have a science fair project. And then you're in high school and you get to choose whether you drop out and get a GED, whether you go to college, whether you don't go to college. Like, you have all these choices and these opportunities. And most people make that choice from a position of comfort.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they make that choice because their friends are doing it, because their parents did it, because this is the alumni program that they participated in. And, it's like a place of comfort. So are you surrounding yourself with people that are of the same mentality? If your goal and aspiration is to buy a house, if your goal and aspiration is to buy an investment property, if your goal is to buy your first investment property, what are you doing following Grant Cardone? I'm not knocking it. Grant Cardone is super fucking successful. But what if you just got with a teacher? What if you just got with a coach? What if you just got with 3 other people in your apartment complex that want to buy their first home, and you talked about the woes? Yeah. And somebody called you out for buying an Alani at the Wawa. He's like, dude, I got 30 of them back in my apartment. And you're like, can I have one? No. But next time I go to buy them, if you want to spend 3 times that Alani cost, we can go get you 12.
Yeah.
And you're like, ooh, that's a good way to save. All of a sudden, you're with like-minded people, bringing together thoughts and mentalities that are going to align with your goals and ambitions.
And people always think like, I don't know.
It's a day here on the podcast.
Last thing, I swear. Go ask your parents what they did to purchase their first home. Yeah, price point was different. I don't want to hear that shit. The whole world was different at that point. But you're telling me your parents, your friends, the older people had not made any sacrifice to purchase the home that you grew up in or that they owned, which that would be bullshit. My dad, he worked 2 jobs in college, trying to make like as much money as he can and get himself to where he needs to be. My mom had 2 jobs at one point as well when she was younger to get herself where she wanted to be. Why do we think that we don't have to put in the same time, energy, or sacrifices as any people before us? We're no different.
To be completely honest with you, I had 3 jobs until after I bought a house. and I was full-time in real estate, and I was doing other jobs to make money. I had 2 jobs for years after I bought a house. I mean, like, the fucking kitchen didn't get renovated itself, right?
Yeah.
I also had practically a full-time job going to the bathroom watching YouTube. Like, it was practically my full-time job, watching YouTube in the shower, watching YouTube in the bathroom, watching YouTube before I went to bed to learn how to do something in my house so that I could fix it because I couldn't afford to hire somebody, right? The best advice I've ever gotten from the person that was the fucking biggest dickbag move in my entire life was that he worked everything at the beginning of his career so that he could learn how to fix a water heater. Not so that he could fix the water heater, so that he knew when the person that was coming to fix the water heater was screwing him. Wow. That was his life mentality. I'm going to learn how to fix the water heater, so I know what it costs. I'm going to learn how to fix the roof, so I know what it costs. Now this person owns over 12,000 rental properties. Super fucking successful, but like, you can't do it without getting your hands dirty. I mean, I was talking with a girl the other day and she said something to the effect of like, oh, I'm just waiting until I find the one that tickles my fancy. Those were the words that she used, the one that tickles my fancy. And I yelled at her and I said, screw tickles your fancy. You need one that's tickling enough, right? Like, this is an investment. It doesn't have to be nice. You need it nice enough. And she laughed and she got all mad and she's like, oh, you're raining on my parade. And I was like, yeah, but rain is how we get flowers to bloom. So like, pick a lane.
Damn.
Do you want to be in a parade or have a fucking field of flowers? Like, you tell me. I don't care, but I don't like being in the 4th of July parade. I just don't. I like fucking sitting outside in the spring rain with the fresh air and the smells of all the things fucking blossoming from the hard work we did last winter. I don't like suffering and struggling to the aspiration of some fireworks at the end of the night. Like, that's not my life.
Yeah.
Damn.
We show the fuck up every day
today.
It was a good one.
I feel bad for everybody who gets on the phone with me today.
I feel bad for the people that we're calling out on the podcast. They're gonna be sitting there like, oh.
It also
but hopefully
was
it's
like,
a good thing. That's what you need in your life,
bro. It was like 11:40 last night, and I was texting, and I texted Jay, and Jay is in California, and he was like, oh, I'm going to bed. And I was like, bro, you're old in 3 time zones. Like, what the fuck? Grow up, Peter Pan. It's New Year's Eve. Anyway, so he was talking about some woes that he had. And it was like, we got into this really deep conversation for about 15 minutes right before midnight. It's like the impact that you can have just by dropping in on somebody, you never know. Yeah. And like, if you get on the phone with me today, I feel bad for you, but we're going to have a good day. It's going to be a good day. I'm going to find so many people. We're going to set like goals for 2024.
I love it.
Anyway, if you haven't already, make sure you read our blog at frankoliverco.com. Under additional resources, go to the blog. There's lots of good content there. You can always find us on YouTube or on Instaworld at michael.frank____. And Christian.
Find me on Instagram at Christian the Deadhead. And then
the Goosey Head. The Goosey Head.
It's still the Deadhead. So look me up there. If you have any questions, always reach out. Couple exciting things that we have coming up early 2024 trolley tour, first week in February. Yep. And then we'll have a home buyer brunch event coming up here real soon as well. So keep an eye out for those.
Very excited for that. Yeah, 2024 is going to be a bomb ass year. So if you haven't reached out already, make sure you do, and we'll crush it. We'll talk to you soon.
Deuces.
What's up, guys? Thanks for watching. For more information on the housing market, Real Estate 101, how you can leverage your position in today's market, and so much more, click on the link below. If you like this video or have a burning real estate question you'd like us to answer, leave us a comment and let us know. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode, and we'll see you again real soon.